Hey guys, this is Rand Paul. As you know, I've been standing up against the mandates of Dr. Fauci, but I need your help. That's why I'm endorsing Nathan Dahm for Senate. I know Nathan Dahm will join me in demanding that Fauci is immediately fired and removed from office. Time and time again, Nathan Dahm has proved that he is a man of courage and conviction who will break the current mold of big government and endless spending. Nathan has the courage to stand with me to defeat the Washington machine.
Good morning. Great to be with you all. Always enjoy being with city elders. And first of all, let me thank you. I was scheduled 2 previous times to come and speak, and both times we ended up being in session. And I would have been willing to make that drive up here and then back down there and back up and forth. I've done that drive many times. In fact, my wife and I have driven back and forth to Oklahoma City or Edmond every day for the last week because we've had morning meetings here, evening meetings down there. But with session going on and everything, Jesse and the team were willing to work with me to reschedule some of that stuff just so I could be there and continue to focus on what I'm doing there at the state level. But it's always good to be back with you. The campaign is going very well. Obviously, we're honored to have the endorsement of Senator Rand Paul. As you saw, I was honored to work with Todd Russ on several of the pro-life bills. Governor Stitt, the first one that he signed was my bill to criminalize abortion. The second one that he signed was my bill, but I gave it over to somebody else, the one that allows for the civil fines on that. And I'm proud to say that God gets the glory, but here in Oklahoma, the abortion clinics have stopped taking appointments. And here in Tulsa, one of them is actually packing up and moving out of state. And again, God gets all the glory for that. I had a small role to play in that with so many other people. I know a lot of people have been involved in the pro-life movement for decades, fighting this battle, and that's a huge victory that we have. But we're not done. It's not enough just to ban it and stop it here in Oklahoma. We have to prohibit it across the country. We have to end this sin of abortion, which is modern-day child sacrifice. That's what it is. That's what the left is doing, is they are sacrificing our children, whether they realize it or not. That's what's happening. And we can do it constitutionally and federally, okay? Here at the state level, yes, we have eliminated it, but, and there's more to be done, but at the federal level, Senator Rand Paul has introduced the Life Begins at Conception Act. It's a simple bill that defines life as beginning at conception. If we pass that, it takes away from California and Colorado and New York the opportunity to abort babies because government has a responsibility to protect life. So if we define it as beginning at conception, we can prohibit abortion nationwide. And I've already committed to signing, co-authoring Senator Paul's Life Begins at Conception Act once I get to DC. So I'm still in the battle. I'm doing what I can at the state level. I'm going to continue that fight at the federal level. Obviously, I'd be honored to have your support in the campaign. The election is coming up here in, I forget what day it is now. What's Thursday morning? 16, so 12 days coming up here very quickly. So I'd be honored to have your support, honored to have your prayers, especially for my wife and I. We, like as Jesse mentioned, we just celebrated 1 year of marriage. We are newlyweds, and it's been a wonderful year. God has blessed us abundantly. 9 months of that have been on the campaign trail, and this is her first ever campaign, a statewide campaign. We've had the opportunity to see many beautiful places across the state of Oklahoma. Have any of you ever been down to Medicine Park, down past Lawton? It's beautiful down there. It's like Eureka Springs, but better. And so we were down there a few nights ago and stuff. And so we have some great places here in Oklahoma that I'll be honored to be able to represent the entire state. But I'll be honest with you, I feel like I kind of already have, because I realize that what I do at the state level hasn't just been for my district, right? Whenever we passed the bills to ban abortion, it wasn't just, okay, Senate District 33, we no longer do that. No, this is across the state. When I passed the bill for constitutional carry, it wasn't just for the people that live in my district. it was across the state. And so when I get up to D.C. as the next U.S. Senator, I'll continue to be able to represent the state of Oklahoma and all the people and be able to continue what I feel like I've already done. So I'd be honored to have your support with that. We have materials back on the back table. We have the prayer magnets. If you don't have one of those prayer magnets, please take one of those, stick it on your fridge. It just says you will commit one day a week to pray for Christina and I. Keep us in your prayers. I hope it'll serve as a reminder, not just to pray for us, but to pray for all your elected officials. I know I say this all the time. We need to pray for the president, no matter who they are. But I always say, depending on who they are, might change how you pray or what you pray, right? But we definitely need to be praying for every elected official. And so that'll serve as a reminder. It just says one day a week, you pick the day. So we have those prayer magnets back there. We have yard signs. We have all those materials. And I'll just go ahead and ask up front for donations. We're still going to be doing a push to get on some Christian radio for our campaign. The cheapest radio ads are around $6. The most expensive are $15. Depends on the time of the day, you know, when their listenership is and everything. So $150 buys us 10 radio ads. $1,500 buys us 100 radio ads. Anything you can do, don't think anything too small. Even $6 could buy us one radio ad. So I would ask everybody to do something, whatever you're able to do, to help us do our final push. We have pretty much everything else in place. We got teams traveling across the state, but a lot of it is about, you know, getting our message out there because, yes, I am the most conservative state senator in Oklahoma state history, but I don't have the most money. Other people can run flashy ads saying they're conservative, and if people don't know that I actually have a proven record, they might vote for the other person because they saw the flashy ads, right? So we do have to do some radio and some of those things too. So if you can get involved in the campaign with that, we need drivers, we need knockers, we need droppers. We're going to drop materials on 75,000 households between now and the end of the election in 12 days. So we have teams going out 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. doing drops, 9 to 9 we do drops, and we knock on people's doors. So we're going out from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then we have people prepping those materials at our office over in Oakland, in Broken Arrow and stuff. So we got plenty of opportunities. I'm doing everything I can. My wife will tell you. I was up till 3 a.m. last night, well, every night this week, but working on getting stuff ready. We're praying and trusting God, but we're doing everything that we can as well. Okay, we're not just sitting idly by. We are putting action to our faith, but you know, more hands make for lighter work, right? And one thing that God did stir in me a while back is the story of Gideon, and so we know that we'll be able to win this with a core select team of people that are willing to work hard and do what is right. We don't need the most people, but we need some dedicated people. So if you're willing to join for the next 12 days, we'd be honored to have any support you can give. I asked Jesse right before I came up here if I could just do a Q&A. You all have heard me speak before. You know, I can talk about the Constitution. I can talk about God's Word. I can combine those two and show you how they're intertwined and everything. But somebody had texted me and gave the suggestion this morning and said, hey, can you kind of talk about the primary process, the election process, how that works? So I'll do that first. But I thought that maybe other people will have some questions that you all would prefer me to answer. Maybe there's, you know, just something that you've been thinking about that you'd say, hey, I want somebody to be able to explain this to me or answer it. So let me just talk about the process first so everybody understands. So we have a primary runoff system here in Oklahoma. And what that means is that it's a closed primary. So all the Republicans run on the Republican side. All the Democrats run on the Democrat side. If there's multiple Libertarians, they run on the Libertarian side. And then the independents, they're not a party. They're independent of everybody, so they don't have any sort of primary election. But what the primary allows you to do is to look at all the Republicans and narrow it down to one person that will be the Republican in November. And then you'll have a Democrat in November. You could have multiple independents because, again, they don't belong to any party. And you'll have one Libertarian if there's a Libertarian. But the primary process is where you get to actually determine who that nominee is going to be for the party. It's the most important election because you have a lot of people that will run as Republicans in November that will just say they're Republican, but they don't stand by the Republican Party platform. They don't believe in those principles. And so we need to have, this is the chance to actually select the conservative in the race. Now in my race, there's 13 people running for this, you know, including Adam and so others, and there's a lot of candidates in this race, but this is the opportunity when you get to determine who that is going to be. But the way it works in Oklahoma is if one candidate gets more than 50% of the vote, 50% plus one vote, not 51%, 50% plus one vote, if you have the majority, what we say is, okay, you won the majority of the Republican vote, you're going off and you're going to be the nominee in November. But if nobody gets more than 50% of the vote, we take the top two. Because 13 people in the race, I mean, if you just split that across the board, what is that, 7% each, that every person could get. And so maybe one person gets 10% and everybody else gets 7%. So you have somebody that is the Republican nominee. They're the one that's supposed to represent the Republican Party with 10% of the vote, whereas 90% of everybody else didn't vote for that person. So instead of doing that, we have a runoff system here in Oklahoma. So the top two advance to a runoff 2 months later in August, and then you get to pick from those who of those two will then advance. Because if you have two people, one of them is going to have to get more than 50%, right? I mean, it could be a very exactly split, but that's very unlikely that, that they're going to split the vote perfectly. But so one of them would have to get more than 50%. And so then they'd say, okay, so this person has the majority of the vote of the Republicans in that area, in this state, and so then they would advance forward. So that's the process and the system that we're in right now. That's why we have the primaries, and that's why the primaries are the most important aspect of this. Because once it gets to November, you'll have the choice of a Republican. Right now you have the choice of 13 Republicans that is a wide range. We actually have a moderate running on gun control. There is a Republican who is running and his platform is gun control, right? Now, I don't think that the majority of Republicans will vote for him, but some will because there are some that do believe in that. But you have a wide range of people, and so this is your opportunity to find the person that you believe best aligns with your views so that you can support them in the hopes that they will be the nominee in November. So I just kind of wanted to explain that process and everything so everybody understood how important these elections are. With that, too, I will ask, one thing that we're asking is every person, please contact at least 10 other people before Election Day. Don't wait for them to ask you. I know I get text messages from people. I've already started getting text messages from people saying, hey, who are we voting for and why? Do you have any input on all these races? There's a lot of campaigns out there, a lot of people running for office. Don't wait for people to reach out to you. If you would proactively reach out to them, you'd be surprised how many people would be thankful about that would say, hey, I didn't want to ask, but I was wanting to know where I could find the information. So you can proactively reach out to them and tell them, here's who I'm voting for. Hopefully you'll say Nathan Dahm for U.S. Senate. But tell them, here's who I'm voting for, and share that with them. That is very, very helpful for a lot of people. I believe it's going to be very low voter turnout, and so that's good for us because if we get our core group out, if we get people that are dedicated like us, if the churches get engaged, if believers get engaged, we can make a substantial difference. So I would like to encourage you with that. I know that was one question that somebody texted me last night. Does anybody have any questions I could answer for you? Because if not, I can talk about other stuff. Over in the back to your left.
So I like what you said about protecting children at conception. What are you going to do about protecting children from the National Education Administration?
A friend of mine, Congressman Thomas Massey, has introduced a bill, and it's a one-page bill, and it says the Department of Education shall cease to exist. And I've told him I would co-author that bill, or actually he's on the House side, so I would sponsor it on the Senate side. There's no constitutional authority for the Department of Education to exist. 90% of the regulations come from the feds on the schools, but only 10% of the funding comes from the feds for our schools. We need to entirely get them out of our schools, so that's what I'm going to do. But here's what I did, okay? Because it's really easy for candidates to say, I'm going to do this. And if you watched the debate last week, whenever that was, when they asked questions about what will you do about red flag laws, all the other candidates said, well, here's what I'm going to do. My answer was, here's what I did. I passed the nation's first ever anti-red flag law. They asked, well, what is your stance on abortion? They said, well, here's what I'm going to do. My answer was, here's what I did, because I've already done it. So my third year, I think it was, up at the state capitol, it was pretty early on, I introduced a bill that prohibits government employees from collecting union dues for the union. It's ridiculous that we pay a government employee to go and do the payroll deductions and give the money to the unions. If you want to be a member of a union, I still don't think that's a wise decision, but you should have to go and you should have to sign up on their website and put your credit card information in there and do it monthly so you can see every month how much you're paying to the union. We shouldn't pay a government employee to do that on your behalf on taxpayer dime. So I ran the bill and passed the bill. It was a huge fight, but I got it passed here in the state of Oklahoma to prohibit payroll dues for government employees. Another question?
I'm asking this because a lot of people ask me. I'd like to let them hear it from you. People are saying if you do not prevail in the federal, do you still keep your job on the state?
So
how does that work?
So we have term limits here in the state of Oklahoma. It's 12 years. I do support term limits. I think it's a benefit, a positive thing. I'll just tell you, one of my main opponent that has the most money, has the most name ID, he ran on term limits. And then 6 years afterwards, when he was supposed to be done, he got up and said, well, God told me I didn't have to keep my word in this regard, so I'm going to run again. I first of all take offense at somebody that doesn't keep their word, but especially when they blame it on God. No, God does not tell you to do that. God tells you to swear to your own hurt and keep your word, and that's a slap in the face to say that stuff. But no, 12 years is our term limit here at the state level. I've served for 10 years, so I'm in the middle of my term, so I would have 2 years left. Once I win this seat, what will happen is I will have to give up my state Senate seat, and then there will be a special election to fill that position. Todd Russ came in with a special election, so that's how he first got elected. So that special election would be in January as a primary, and then the general election would probably be April sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you
Senator
all. Please get
Dahm.
involved. I'll be out at the table afterwards. God bless you all. Thank you.